Good evening. Welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom on the program tonight. The campaigning is now over in Karnataka in elections which built up to a fever pitch over the last few days. Voting is on the 10th, counting just 3 days later. In 5 days, we'll know who the winner is. On this show, a deep dive using data on just what's at stake, where the principal parties, the BJP, the Congress and the JDS, need to focus on if they are to cross the magic mark. There's a lot of data. We'll try and make it as simple as possible for you. That's on top of the program, but later on at half past the hour, everyone is talking about it, is the danger of generative artificial intelligence as real as it's made out to be. We'll bring you some of the leading voices on this in the country. But first, our top discussion. Karnataka has been a key southern outpost for the BJP. Winning it is key as it tries to get a southern foothold. Losing it would be disastrous. For the Congress, this is their only real hope. At the moment in the south, the stakes are absolutely huge. And for the JDS, their goal would be to remain possible kingmakers or risk becoming entirely irrelevant. Joining us on the program this evening, my colleague T.M. Veeraraghav. We are joined by Professor Chandan Gowda, Shugoto Srinivas Raju and Manisha Priyam. But first, let's just bring up our first set of graphics and then we'll talk about it. So the regions graphic coming up first in case you want to know where it's all at. Here is a quick look at the regions. Remember, 224 seats, of which coastal Karnataka is at 50. Kittur, Maharashtra, Karnataka is at 50 seats. Coastal Karnataka at 24. Old Mysore at 53. Bangalore at 36. And Central Karnataka at 20. So those are the main seats. Kalyan Karnataka at 41. So that's what's going to all be up voting in just a couple of days from now. Let's move on to the next graphic, the overall 2018 figures, because a lot of what we'll be talking about will be based on that. So in terms of the 2018 figures, let's take a look at where each of the parties actually stood. So in terms of 2018, the BJP was the single largest at 104, the Congress at 80, the JDS at 38. For the Congress to be safe this time around, a lot of analysts say that they'll need to cross substantially more than what they did last time around, and it is going to be close. How much? How close are they going to actually be able to get? For the BJP, it would also mean substantially adding to where they were last time around. But we'll be talking about swings later on over the next couple of days. And of course, the JDS well placed to be kingmaker as well. I think before we get into the data, the key point that needs to be looked at a time when so many have suggested that the Congress may be on the ascendancy in Karnataka, primarily because of local issues. The sense is that over the last 10 days, the BJP with Narendra Modi and Amit Shah really leading the charge may have resulted in an X factor being formed. This is where Modi is extremely strong. Has he stolen the narrative from the Congress party? Let's take a look now at flip seats. Now, these are important and we'll bring you safe seats after that. What are flip seats? Now, flip seats, remember 84 constituencies have never voted for the same party since 2008. They keep changing, hence they are called flip seats. Now, in this, the BJP has 56 seats that it won in 2018, the Congress 19, the JDS 8. And so these flip seats are very, very important because they keep changing, or past history has shown since 2008, they keep changing hands. Quickly, a look at safe seats. Now, equally important, since 2008, 60 constituencies have voted for the same party. Now, if we take a breakup of this, the BJP at 23, the Congress at 27, the JDS at 10. So in terms of safe seats, the Congress ahead of the BJP and would certainly be counting, in fact, both the Congress and the BJP to hold on to the safe seats, because the flip seats would be a matter of concern. Veeraraghav, the significance of the flip seats in Karnataka.
Well, I think, Vishnu, the data that you put out points out that there are two types of seats in Karnataka. One are the anti-incumbency seats and the other are the pro-incumbency seats. When you take the safe seats, for instance, a city like Bangalore, urban seats, total 32 seats, including Bangalore urban and rural. Out of that, 19 are safe seats. They remain with one party throughout. So these are seats which keep re-electing the incumbent. And by nature of those flip seats, they shift from sides to down. The BJP won more of them last time. If the Congress gets more of those this time, they get the numbers in these elections. So I think that's really the significance of putting those numbers out. So you cannot categorize the state as a whole as an anti-incumbency or a pro-incumbency state. There are seats which are pro-incumbency, and then there are seats which are anti-incumbency. And the anti-incumbency seats are the ones the Congress will be looking at very closely this time.
Chandan Gowda, how closely or how well placed, and I understand that Karnataka is one state, but in a sense it's so diverse that and regionally so different. But could there be some sort of overall analysis that you can share with us on the importance of flip seats for the Congress, for the JDS, and for the BJP?
The flip seats for the JDS, I think, won't matter as much because its influence is confined to a smaller geographical region. It's really about the Bangalore, what Veera mentioned, and where JDS has a very small presence, that just 2 seats last time, and northern Karnataka. But what has happened this time, which might complicate this kind of pattern you've noticed about flipping and staying constant, is the number of rebel candidates in both the BJP and the Congress, which actually means that at the grassroots, there's been an enormous shuffling of local ranked leaders and their cadres across all 3 parties, actually, and across 2 parties in northern areas, which is making everyone say that this is perhaps the only election where we'll have the maximum number of close contest seats with very narrow victory margins. So I'm not at all sure if this pattern is going to be a good guide to understand the election results this time.
Shugato, just a point of clarification. When we're talking about flip seats and the fact that since 2008, not one party has held these seats, they keep changing hands. A flip seat is not synonymous with a close contest, right? Not necessarily synonymous.
Not necessarily synonymous. And with these 56 seats that the BJP has to sort of regain to retain power or be ahead of the Congress. See, they're mostly in the Hyderabad, Karnataka, that's Kalyana Karnataka region and the Kittur region. And it's not, and to a small extent, central Karnataka. So you can, as Chandan pointed out, you can safely leave out Old Mysore region and the coastal Karnataka region here. Mm-hmm. So I think the battle is in Bombay, Karnataka and Hyderabad, Karnataka, which has now been renamed as Kalyana Karnataka and Kittur Karnataka. So this 56 is going to be very, very crucial. And the other point that Chandan brought up is also very important. The rebel candidates this time, we need to watch them very, very carefully. So even if the JDS gains in other regions other than the Old Mysore region, it will be, it will be because of these rebel candidates. And if the BJP slips, it will again be because of the rebel candidates. And if the Congress seems to do well, it's because they have distributed tickets in a far more prudent way. But we have also seen a lot of rebel candidates within the Congress. So, it's a difficult thing to predict,
Okay, let's just, Manisha Priyam also with us. Thanks, Manisha, for joining us. I'm going to quickly take a look now at the caste equation, as it were. And of course, we've heard and read so much about the Vocaliga domination and the Lingayat domination in different areas. Let's bring this up in numbers for you. So who won more of the Vocaliga dominated seats in 2018? It's the JDS, as you would expect, 22 seats at 37.1%. This, of course, is their core constituency. The Congress with 10 seats at 33.5% vote share, and the BJP 12 seats at 23.6%. And if we just switch now and take a look at Lingayat dominated areas, this, of course, is the BJP's core constituency. 47 seats is what they won in 2018 with 42.5% of the vote share. The Congress and the JDS substantially lower. So capitalizing on that Lingayat vote, very, very important indeed. Manisha, do you believe that, let's talk about the Lingayats first. Do you believe that the BJP is in a good position to capitalize on their stronghold, which is the Lingayat community, or has there been any change on the ground that you have detected which might make them somewhat more vulnerable in this than in the past?
I don't have a clear idea of what's happening on the ground, but what I can understand is that the Lingayat vote has been solidly with the BJP, but it's also something that's been premised with Yediyurappa as their leader.
Yes.
And that voice has been very, very clear. So I think one of the X factors for this election is to see. Now, there has been some sentiment that I have caught which says that Yediyurappa was not treated very well. He was removed as the chief minister, and that's something that did not go down very well. Of course, there's the expulsion of Shettar and Lakshman Chowdhury, who didn't get the ticket. But the fact is that Yediyurappa remains the tallest leader. He's with the BJP, but not as its chief minister. Now, whether the Lingayats consider this something which is credible enough for them or not, that's something to be seen. But the other part is that the BJP's own effort to rise above the politics of the dominance and to be able to build a pan-Karnataka Hindutva-based vote base is something that has not bore fruition, and the BJP has had to hedge its bets with giving over 50 tickets to Lingayats.
Right.
Now, even if you see the critical battle in Varuna, for example, they've relied on Somanna, and obviously it's the caste background, the Lingayat background, that's something that they are relying on. So the BJP, for all of what they've done with respect to a clear-cut Hindutva-based strategy, a Muslim exclusionary strategy, at the ground, the BJP is still relying the most on the Lingayats backing them in a very solid way, and Yediyurappa will have to deliver for the BJP for this X factor to bear out in favor of the BJP.
Veeraraghav, the loss of Shettar, is that, and other leaders in the Lingayat community, how significant a setback do you believe that this might be for the BJP?
I think it's more of the optics at the moment. You've not seen the Congress make a run for the Lingayat vote in the last 2 decades. You've had the Congress led by leaders, non-Lingayat leaders from the old Mysore region over the last 2 decades. And given that that optics is what it changes. Now, I don't know how much of an impact it will have on the ground. Our CSDS NDTV poll suggested that the Lingayat vote is firmly with the BJP. But I think the bigger question, I wanted to point out to the inter-regional dynamics of the flip seats. Maybe we can take that for later. But the bigger question really, Vishnu, is the Vokkaliga vote. When you say 22 of the 44 seats, and how we define the Vokkaliga vote are seats
Let's just
where
change
the
that graphic to the Vokkaligas. Yeah, go ahead, Veeraraghav.
It's about seats where the Vokkaligas constituted more than 25% of the population is the way we classified those. And there were 44 seats. Out of that, 22 have been won by the JDS. Now, this means 50% of those seats are there. And most of these are in Old Mysore region. Now, for the Congress to get the numbers, and remember, D.K. Shivkumar comes from that same caste.
Yeah.
His mentor, S.M. Krishna, came from Mandya, and that was the last time the Congress had a hold over that vote as well. Can the Congress break back into that Vokkaliga bastion? That would be critical for 2 reasons, Vishnu. Not just for getting the numbers at the end of the day, but if they do get the numbers, who between D.K. Shivkumar and Siddaramaiah gets the race to the top job, that would also determine on that would also depend on the dynamics and the results in that old Mysore region.
I just want to bring up that Vokkaliga graphic one more time if we can, because I just wanted to go across to Chandan. As I understand it, the BJP has had an incredible drive in the old Mysore region. Infrastructure is something that they've looked at very, very closely. Would this or could this help diminish, the JDS and its sort of family hold in this area?
The bit about the infrastructure, I don't think they're aggressive on that front, because it's also meant a loss of livelihoods for hundreds of people who actually had shops along the highway on the ground. That is about. So that's something that we can't be totally sure of in terms of bringing gains to the BJP. But they have fielded their candidate and that's been more aggressive in their campaigns this time in the old Mysore region than ever before. And it's always a bit of a mystery why previously the BJP leaders chose to almost, not, place their bets on this region at all. It's only this time that you see a concerted effort. But be that as it may, I think it's not going to move out of the position 3. It may get a few more votes, but it will stay in position 3.
So they remain
really
potential kingmakers.
Sorry?
They remain potential kingmakers, the JDS.
I think we need to think of other ways of talking about the coalition, but there's not much time. Because this sort of makes them seem like opportunists, make them seem like people who are biding their time to just grab a pair of, piece of power without being, legitimately entitled to it, etc. But I really think the model of the federal country, where every state sends representatives, has to apply in our thinking for state level thinking too, Vishnu.
Sure.
Think about a region A, which keeps sending party A, and they don't expect it to sit in the opposition forever.
Correct.
So there's a
That's
way
true.
in which...
But at the same time, Shugato, would you agree that for the JDS, these elections are important because it's a fight, it's an existential fight. It's a fight for relevance. If they are to do worse than they've done in the past, and if they are not to become potential kingmakers or improve on that performance, then what is their relevance in Karnataka politics, let alone anywhere else?
Vishnu, right from 1999, the JDS has always fought for its existence.
Right.
And its average vote share has always remained between 18 and 20%. So I have a feeling that they're going to retain that thing and probably get a percent or two more. Their seats may not go up, but their vote share probably will remain intact. And you're seeing Deve Gowda at 90, campaigning aggressively every single day in the region, basically trying to hold on. So that is one part of the story. The second thing, the other point that I wanted to make is, I think when we do electoral analysis, we tend to focus only on Lingayats and Vokkaligas when we speak about that in Karnataka. But roughly put together, both the communities wouldn't cross 30-35% of the population. So if the rest of them, the supporting caste, supporting players in the caste, game, would be very, very important.
Absolutely. And let me interrupt you there because I've got that. I've got the SC/ST seats and I've got, a look at the Muslim seats as well. So let's just seamlessly go on to that. Firstly, let's take a look at the scheduled caste breakup. The vote percentage in scheduled caste reserve seats. So we're talking about reserve seats over here. Last time around, in scheduled caste reserve seats, the BJP had 16, the Congress had 12. Though the vote share in Congress areas was up, the Congress's vote share rather was at 39.2%, the JDS at 7%. This was last time around, but more seats, 4 seats more to the BJP. Let's just take a look at scheduled tribes, ST, and the vote percentage in scheduled tribe reserved areas, that sort of flipped. So more to the Congress, less to the BJP, but the percentage of votes is higher to the BJP as opposed to the Congress. So, in terms of this, obviously adding up substantially to the overall chunk of votes and seats which all of the parties would be seeking, it's critical. One more graphic before we discuss this. Let's take a look at Muslim voters, seats and vote percentage of areas with, this is let's stick with the SC population. This is seats and vote percentage of areas with more than 15% of an SC population. The BJP at 53, the Congress narrowly behind at 52. And let's take a look at seats and vote percentage of areas with more than 15% of an ST population now. Scheduled tribe population, it's the BJP at 10, the Congress at 16. And finally, let's take a look at areas where there's been a substantive Muslim population. So seats and vote percentage of areas with more than a 15% Muslim population. The BJP at 26. So the BJP actually more than the Congress, as you can see, in these seats. But remember, this is more than 15% Muslim population. Perhaps if in those areas where the Muslim population is much larger, is where the Congress sort of benefits. So Veera Raghav, 3 or 4 sets of data. First, let's look at scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. How do the BJP and the Congress, how have they faced up to each other in the last election? What would they be looking to improve on?
And this is taking on from Shugata's point.
Yes.
And if I'm right, Shugata, you can correct me. I think Shugata is referring to that Ahinda vote that we talk about, which is a conglomeration of all other castes away from the Lingayats and the Vokkaligas, which we talk about, which can prove decisive. I'm talking about the smaller voting blocks that exist in other parts. May not be one full subsect like the Ahinda is. I think it's important to understand that the ST votes and the SC votes both have made a run for it, and I think the BJP is trying to attempt a division in the SC vote to try and benefit from that. That's been their strategy. Interestingly, and I'm just throwing this question to all our panelists and to you, Vishnu, the one name I've not heard extensively in this election is Sri Ramalu. You heard about Sri Ramalu several times in the last election. They were considered crucial factors in the Hyderabad, Karnataka region. He represents the ST vote there. Somehow, in these elections, there seems to be a lack of focus on that. I wonder if I'm missing something here, or is there something that's deeper happening in the BJP's dynamics?
Manisha, would you like to take that? The ST vote specifically? The lack of mention to Sri Ramalu?
I don't know why Sri Ramalu is not mentioned, but I do think that the BJP's narrative on the internal subdivisions with respect to the SC especially, that's something that left me stunned. By 24th March, the Banjara community, for example, was protesting in Shivmoga at the residence of B.S. Yediyurappa. So more than the reservations, the noise was about the Muslims being excluded. I heard less protests from the Muslims, but I do think that on the internal reservations, on who got what, there was definitely a lot of unnerving of the bottommost of the pyramid. And of course, traditionally, I believe, from what I gather, that the Congress is stronger with the right hand Dalits and, the BJP with the left hand. But there's a Devegowda who always has claim in his region, at least he's nursed the Madiga constituency well. So with this reservation announcement, how much has the BJP unnerved the bottom of the pyramid? That's something that the two specialists from Karnataka would very well answer. Now, as far as the ST is concerned, I would have expected the BJP to have done a lot more, because they've been going out there and nursing the ST community in most other states, even in North India. Why Sri Ramalu has been missed out, I'm not very clear on that.
Chandan, would you like to, your views on this?
We've lost Chandan.
We've lost Chandan over there. Sugata, you want to take that question? Your thoughts on consolidation of the ST sort of vote with the regions and the seats? Yeah.
Yeah, the Sri Ramalu thing that came up, Vishnu. See, Sri Ramalu was a star campaigner last time, and this time he's not. He's just, has been asked to take care of 4 or 5 constituencies around his own thing. And from the last report that I got from his own constituency, I think he's struggling. He's very much struggling. So, I don't know the reason why the BJP has not utilized him as much as they did last time. But it could also be about his friend, Mr. Janardhan Reddy,
yes,
who has floated his own party. And, there's a bit of confusion about who is with whom in that part of the thing. And also the BJP may also perhaps thinks that it has, it's a fait accompli, that the ST vote is firmly with them and they don't need to really worry about it. So I think there are a number of factors there. When it comes to the SC left vote, which Manisha ji was pointing out, see, this time K.H. Munyappa of the Congress is contesting an assembly seat, and I think it's a very symbolic thing. He used to always be a Lok Sabha member. Last time he lost the Kolar seat, and this time, for the first time after decades, is contesting as an MLA seat. So I think the Congress is somewhere trying to woo the right. The left. And he's been put up there as a kind of, his daughter is also contesting. She was an MLA last time. So the left Dalit is something that the Congress was, lagging behind. And they seem to be making some overtures over there. We don't know if it's going to succeed, because Yediyurappa has always held that vote. He has completely wooed that community, and the RSS has gone after them and, helped them, get into the mainstream in a different way.
All right, we're going to take a short break and return to all of this. We've got several other key data points to look at, but that's coming up right after that. Our deep dive into the data in Karnataka. It is absolutely fascinating stuff, because it gives you an idea of where the parties were placed last time around and the areas that they'll be focusing on very, very closely indeed, beyond the rhetoric, the shouting and the screaming in the election campaign. Up for a short break. There's a lot more coming up. Welcome back to our deep dive on the Karnataka elections, the data from last time around. Remember, The voting just around the corner on the 10th, results out on the 13th. We'll be bringing you all of the action. I'm going to go back to my colleague Veera Raghav for a moment. Veera, would you just go through this data set with me? I just want to bring up the data on the Muslim vote last time around. And it is interesting because if you actually look at it in seats where, and let's just have that up full screen so that I can just talk our viewers through it. Seats and vote percentage of areas with more than 15% Muslim population, the BJP is actually higher than the Congress. How does that work? And, you know, if you look at the campaign this time around, and it's similar in a sense to last time, but a stridently pro-Hindutva campaign by the BJP, how is that likely to translate for the Congress party, if not the BJP?
Well, I think that that has pocketed impact, Vishnu. Karnataka remains more on the social arithmetic, I would believe, and not so much on this larger narrative that one has created. I don't think that's going to really make a key impact in that election campaign. In fact, from the start, it would have been the effort of the BJP to turn it away from local issues into a larger narrative. But I don't think that's going to really have an enormous impact. Just a quick point, Vishnu, I'm sorry for going back into the earlier point that we were making. As Sugata pointed out, there are internal contradictions in that we were discussing Hyderabad, Karnataka and Sri Ramalu as well. There are internal family issues that are going on. For instance, Janardhan Reddy's wife is competing with Somashekar Reddy, his brother, in the Bellary seat. So a lot of those, that could be another X factor that the BJP should be worried about on whether they could, because that's traditionally a fight within the BJP, if you look at it.
Let's turn our attention to the last couple of sets of graphics. We're looking at close contests and direct contests. So let's have the data on close contests first. So 2018 seats and votes where the margin of victory was less than 5,000 votes. So less than 5,000 votes. Who won more close contests? In fact, the Congress won many more close contests, more than double than that of the BJP. Congress at 19, the BJP at 8, the JDS at 3, 31 seats in total where the margin of victory was less than 5,000. I'm just going to stop over here and bring Sugata in. You know, if this election does turn out to be close, how important would you know, this sort of data or the close contests be, you know, where the margin of victory is less than 5,000 seats? Do you believe that this could be a potential decider this time around?
Yes, Vishnu. I mean, even last time around, if the Congress has won 19 seats, which were with a margin of 5,000, you know, I mean, the victory margin was 5,000, and that includes Siddaramaya's own seat, the tallest leader. You know, I mean, I think his victory margin was around 1,800 votes, and the Nota votes were far higher than that. So if the Congress is winning 19 in a close, you know, I mean, corner fight, I think, you know, it's pretty dangerous in the sense that those seats may flip. They have a possibility of flipping. So the 19 seats, if the Congress has to retain, their victory margins will have to increase. So they must have put in extra effort, or they must have changed candidates, or like Siddaramaya moved out of Badami. So because it was pretty dangerous to recontest that seat. And I think all his surveys were pointing I mean, not very safe for him. So he moved from that place to Varuna now eventually. So if that is, so these 19 seats may be very, very delicate for the Congress if they have to retain those 19 seats. Because the candidate who lost would have equal sympathy and would be fighting harder this time. Yeah. And in most of these 19 seats, the BJP has retained the candidate, and I think 3 or 4 seats they've changed the candidates.
Okay. I just want to turn our attention to direct contests. This is another fascinating data set. So if let's just look at what happens in terms of direct contests. So in the 2018 Karnataka Assembly election, if the winning party was the BJP, it was the Congress which was trailing, then the JDS, and then independent. So Veera, would you like to just run us through that data set? Let's go back to the previous one and look at the BJP first before we look at the Congress and the JDS. Yeah.
Vishnu, what this really means is it just classifies that Karnataka are two-way fights, and then there are three-way fights. That is, there are Congress versus BJP seats, or BJP versus Congress, if you want to call it that, and Congress versus JDS seats, as most of us observers are. This graphic that's on your screen shows that out of the 104 seats that the BJP won, 85 seats, the Congress was the second party. All right. So even when you take close contest, it'll be a Congress versus BJP seat where the JDS will be a distant third player. Then if you take the 37 seats that the JDS won, out of the 37,
let's just change to JDS. Let's go to the JDS point. So if the JDS is the winning party, this is Congress. I'll just change to JDS next. And let's talk through the JDS numbers. Yeah. So if the JDS is the winning party,
37 seats the JDS won in 2018. Out of that, 25 seats the Congress is the number 2 party, which means the BJP, and there are seats where the BJP has a very marginal voting presence, like single-digit vote shares is what they get. So technically those are Congress versus JDS battles. This graphic was primarily to explain, Vishnu, why the Congress can potentially get a great vote share in Karnataka, but not be able to convert into seats. Because
and let's just take a look at the Congress itself for half a second, Veera. But carry on with the point that you're mentioning. Yeah.
That's right. Look, if the Congress is the winning party, 59 seats, 59 cases, the BJP is the second party. And then the JDS comes second in 18 seats. So this is just to show why the Congress cannot rely on just upping its vote share. Like in 2018, the Congress got a 38% vote share, but lesser number of seats. Because the Congress vote is spread across the seats, across the state, and it fights two separate battles. One is its battle directly against the JDS in the heart of the old Mysore region, especially in the Kaveri heartland, and it fights the BJP in the rest of the state. So this is just to drive home that point that the Congress need not just necessarily increase its vote share. It needs to increase vote share strategically in seats where it's close for it to get the numbers.
Yeah. Chandan, how would you look at this? The importance of direct fights in Karnataka.
No, it actually simplifies the political field. If it's a direct contest, you don't have the, if it's a three-way fight, then there's lots of quid pro quos across constituencies being struck by parties. Those sorts of things will be kept to the minimum if this is continuing on. A direct contest is more easy to manage than a three-way contest. And this time, the number of three-way contests in some of those areas, there are actually 40 seats where the rebel candidates are being fielded, either as independents or by the JDS, will complicate that picture. I think that's going to be a big story there to keep our eyes, peeled for as the results pour in.
I just want to end this part of our program by going back to Manisha with a broader question. We've had surveys which have been done, including on our network, which have pointed to the Congress doing really well, pointing to economic issues, the issue of poverty, the issues of employment or the lack thereof being very, very dominant. But what we have seen in Karnataka in the last 10 odd days is, Narendra Modi dominating the narrative in the way that he does best. Amit Shah very, very aggressive as well. We've seen the Kerala movie controversy. We've seen the entire controversy linked to Sonia Gandhi's remarks on sovereignty in Karnataka, etc., etc. Do you believe that in the last phase of these elections, the narrative by Modi and his supporters might actually be the X factor that needs to be looked at?
So I think in the last phase, it was very clear that the Prime Minister Narendra Modi was fighting a national election in Karnataka. His focus on Mysuru, for example, very clear from all the analysis that it's a region where the party mostly comes third. It's a region where there's a straight fight between the Congress and the JDS. But the fact is that the Prime Minister took it upon himself. It was his stakes that were being put forward. It no longer remained the Basavaraj Bommai government defending itself or Yediyurappa being named the chief minister, which is something that their strong vote base might have wanted to do. So in a sense, the BJP clearly shifting the narrative from its own government, the Prime Minister trying to put forward a narrative and a pitch that he would like to use for the national election and focusing extraordinarily on a region that has given him dividends in the Lok Sabha elections, but not as much in the assembly elections. And it remains to be seen whether the Congress, that's a pan-Karnataka party, in those closely contested seats will be able to drive the voters out where the victory margins have been narrow? Will they be able to convert the sentiment that may exist in terms of resonance between what people find on the ground and what they are seemingly promising through their manifesto? So I think for the Congress, the difficult part will be the last hour, the last mile, and getting the voter out to the booth. For the BJP itself, the Prime Minister putting his own personality and his own status at stake, but largely for a national election and for a region where he has done very well in the Lok Sabha.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank you all very much for joining us. And they're all going to be back on the 10th. We'll be looking at a poll of polls. We don't do an exit poll ourselves. We'll be looking at a poll of polls with a lot of riders over there. And then, of course, the big voting day, the big counting day, rather, when we'll all know who the next government is going to be. There are lots of interesting data which we'll be looking at, including the swing factor. What is the swing that the Congress or the BJP, for that matter, or the JDS actually need to have a profound impact? That will be coming up over the next couple of days. But for the moment, I want to move on to something everyone is talking about, the danger of generative artificial intelligence. Is it genuinely as real as it's made out to be, the threat? Now, joining us, some of the finest voices in the country on this Jibu Alliance is a content head at India AI, Prashant Suri, is a former senior manager of product marketing at Yahoo. He tracks this very closely. Ankush Sabharwal, the founder and CEO of Corova. We're also joined by Kazim Rizvi, the founding director of The Dialogue, and Rituparna Chakravarti, co-founder and executive director at TeamLease. Kazim, let me come to you first. Just in terms of the technology itself, do you believe it poses a more profound threat? I'm not talking about jobs over here or anything like that, but at the rate at which the technology has evolved, does it pose a threat to humanity and our way of living? It sounds almost like a question out of Star Trek, but that's what people are asking.
No, look, Vishnu, I think like any technology, AI does have challenges, and there are threats, of course. I think, when we look at the internet and how it started 50 years, 60 years ago, it was met with a lot of skepticism, and the same is happening with AI. But I do feel that AI is here to stay. It is the future. We cannot ignore it. We cannot ban it. I think we have to move ahead with the times. And in India, we have to look at developing the right kind of principles and the regulations and the ecosystem to support the growth of AI. I think what we need now is to come up with some sort of a principle-based regulation, which is around making sure that, number one, you have the human in the loop while you are deploying and delivering the technology. It's non-discriminatory in nature. One of the big challenges which have been discussed is how AI can sort of exploit people and communities. I think so we have to make sure that the technology is non-discriminatory in nature. The third issue is around bias, and a lot of the human bias feeds into the AI as the technology is developed, the models are trained, etc. So we have to come up with some sort of mechanisms where you sort of reduce and minimize human bias. That's number three. Number four is around data. And I think this is something which we've been talking a lot over the last few years. We don't have a data protection law in India right now. AI depends a lot on collecting and analyzing basically large amounts of data sets, right? So what it does is it collects large amount of data sets, analyzes the patterns, and then comes up with predictive outcomes which can be looked at situations, right? So what we need right now is to protect privacy of users.
Sure.
To ensure that whatever data is being collected, it's A, of high quality, B, of very diverse nature,
right.
and sort of looks at different communities, different ecosystems. And even when the technology is being developed, it's important that the developers belong to different communities, different sections of society.
So diversity needs to be ensured.
Diversity, you have to have diversity by designing.
Sure, Kazim, have a sec. Jibu, where does this represent a threat for us?
So I think the whole idea of AI is future is, I don't agree with that. AI is present. We are now using it on our daily lives. The threat comes from two ways of looking at it, the long-term threat and the short-term threat. The challenge here is people tend to focus mostly on the long-term threat, whether it's a 6-month moratorium letter or what Elon Musk coming out and saying about existential threats and all, which is there to an extent. At the same time, we are forgetting the short-term threats like job loss or many other things. For example, we are seeing the screenwriters in US are on strike. The script writers are striking because they were worried that next Marvel movie will be
written on ChatGPT. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's happening, and the education app, many people losing their job, and an interesting factor is also to look at how much of a fall the platforms like Fiverr has taken, where many Indians are contributing, this graphic design, coding, small level kind of job. So there are a lot of surface level job that's being displaced, but at the same time, recently World Economic Forum published a jobs report which says that by 2027 there will be 2.6 million new kind of jobs, mostly caused around AI.
So you lose some jobs. So the WEF has predicted 69 million new jobs, but 83 million jobs cut by 2027. So,
yeah,
I mean,
so I think the thing is, whenever new technology comes, we have to adopt. But at the same time, what makes AI kind of a bigger challenge is that we have always replaced our physical labor with technology. This is the first time we are replacing our cognitive ability with technology.
No, exactly.
And we as a humans dominated this planet because of our cognitive advantage. And so we are anthropomorphizing this technology and thinking that, okay, it will be like us, it will have the tendency to dominate us. That's one thing. Secondly, there's a whole question. We can speak about it, regulation, all those things. The bigger question is what should we regulate? How should we regulate? Even if something like a 6-month moratorium, it's easy to say. Who will be following these things? Who will be implementing these things? Imposing these things?
So questions are over there on implementing and on regulation. Rituparna, I think the question I really wanted to get at, and I've not really got any answer, is the entire link between AI and possible sentience. That here you've got, on the basis of shared learning, the basis of having received the sum total of human knowledge and increasingly advanced software, the ability to determine, and therefore approaching sentience. It's basically because of that you've got some of the world's leading designers and thinkers on AI warning of this alert. Where does the technology stand with regard to that?
Thanks so much, Vishnu. I think first and foremost, we have to tell ourselves that drunken driving is really not a case against cars. So I think what is happening with artificial intelligence, generative AI and all of that is amazing in itself. But the fact that anything as cool, as amazing, as path-breaking as AI can potentially, if misused, if people do not use it with the right intent, can create disruptive moments in people's lives, in careers, in jobs, in people's cognitive abilities or ability to express themselves remains. But I think it's too premature, honestly, Vishnu, to be worried about that, because I think we still don't know a lot of things about what it can do. A lot of speculation is what some of the apprehensions based on. So yes, maybe an AI, we've seen 1 or 2 examples of generative AI creating a movie or a design, but it would be far-fetched to say that we've reached a situation where each and every one of us, or our work, or non-cognitive work, our creative work can be substituted with AI. So I'm a believer that we should not jump the gun on it. Are we supposed to use it with the right intent? Yes. But it's too premature to talk about regulations. It's too premature to kind of talk about putting guardrails around it, because it has potential to create a lot of new jobs. And if I were to talk about the Indian scenario and the ecosystem, while yes, like you just shared the data, equivalent data in India suggests that there will be, and there have been, some job losses over the last decade or so on account of some work related to artificial intelligence or automation, and likely to even in the future. But there is tons of high quality jobs that it has potential of creating. And hence, let's focus on that. As a country, I think that should be what our key takeaway.
Okay. Prashant Puri, what are the sectors likely to be hit in terms of jobs going to technology?
So I think there are 2 parts here. I think data science, AI engineering are going to be the big boom sectors where we'll see massive boom. We'll see also increase in average salaries increase. I think from a negative impact perspective, I think entry-level jobs like internships would see a more near-term impact. We've seen Chegg have a big impact on their earnings and their stock price, primarily because a large part of their revenue is driven by the tutoring segment, where you've got students that want teachers, and now they're actually looking at generative AI, ChatGPT, to get that instant answer. Now, whether it's accurate or not, they're not looking at that right now, but that's an immediate impact. So teachers, customer service representatives, entry-level jobs is where, I see more near-term impact, negative impact.
Okay. Ankush, just as the founder and CEO of CodeRover, an AI-powered virtual assistant, and somebody who's obviously worked in this area very closely, till what level or till what extent is AI acceptable for you, beyond which you would say this is where I shut down the technology or I restrict it?
Yeah, thanks, Vishnu, for having me here. In fact, I think my answer is going to be biased, right? So for us, bread and butter comes from AI. And we firmly believe in AI. That's why we started working on this around 6 years ago. And in fact, we used to go and talk to our clients, prospects, convince, hey, this works. And still, it was kind of very difficult. And now it is still difficult to convince people it works. And if you see, there are multiple things. One is technology ready? I think now word is accepting technology is ready. I'll tell you, before this generative AI stuff, people were not even believing us. Hey, would they be able to have the virtual assistant who could answer their customers' users' queries? Now, at least people believe the technology is ready. The second thing is, are we using the technology in the right way? Right? Is the purpose good? Right? I think one of the panelists said about the biasness. Yes, it's there. The bias is there. So whatever I'm speaking, I'm biased, right? So similarly, whatever AI system is giving us output, it's biased based on the data you give, right? It cannot. I'm not saying it's intentional bias, but the biasness comes, right? That's why it's very important to have the explainability, so that if there is a biasness, user is aware, hey, what kind of biasness should be there if you put the right disclaimers. So now the second I was saying is about whether we are using the right products, good purpose. And the third, of course, would be adaptability, right? We are talking a lot about it. Our organizations, our government, are we ready to accept the products coming out of using good technology? Now, I'm considering if all of these three are true, then about do we have manpower? I'll give you one statistics, which I think it's mind-boggling. By 2030, we will lose, the world would lose, the globe would lose $8.5 trillion because of shortage of manpower, right? So we are talking about the AI taking job, maybe short-term few industries, maybe the job displacement, but think about how many new jobs are being created, right? We are purely working on AI. Even our HR guy would also understand AI, right? So we need people who understand AI. There is definitely opportunity to create new industries in AI, and there is a need to use AI in all the industries. I think if you have to think that way, upskilling, reskilling, and some displacement.
I think reskilling is going to be a key part of this going forward, but do spare a thought for those who do lose their jobs and don't really have the ability to reskill or the opportunities. I'd like to thank you all very much for joining us. This is a topic which I suspect we're going to be discussing for a while. Where exactly is the technology? Does it represent a threat? And how do we adapt from an economic standpoint to the opportunities which lie or the opportunities which are going away? We're out of time on this program. From all of us here on the Left, Right and Centre team, good night.